Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 597. Klein's Plan. Lenevis is likely a Sequence 8 swindler. This happens to be from the Marauder pathway. It's not incomprehensible or unacceptable that he would have the admission ticket to the corresponding gathering. On the contrary, it's very logical. Purchasing a mystical item, which can steal the beyonder powers of others, at a gathering with the Hermits of Fate is definitely much easier than other circles. From the looks of it, this is the so-called clue Will Ausepton mentioned. Klein sat by the edge of the bed and suddenly brightened up. He hurriedly set up a ritual to summon himself, and went above the gray fog to bring back the eyeball-sized badge to the real world. On the front of the badge was a symbol that depicted fate and concealment, and behind it was a ring of tiny and compact words in ancient Hermes. "You can join if you have this item." Klein was just about to inject his spirituality to activate the badge and send out the information, to synchronize it with the latest gathering time and location, when he suddenly turned hesitant. How careless am I? I actually forgot to divine if doing so will be dangerous. If that gathering has Lenevis's demigod senior, and he uses it to lock onto me, that will be troublesome. It's just like how Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy was able to quickly find a demoness of unaging to help her. I must take precautions. A person should be rash when the time calls for it, and be a coward when necessary. Klein smacked his forehead and cautiously returned to the mysterious space above the gray fog where he used spirit dowsing to perform a divination. After receiving a revelation that there wasn't any danger, he breathed a sigh of relief and left the gray fog. He then sat in the reclining chair in his room. With the injection of his spirituality, the badge emitted a blurry luster and quickly condensed into an inconspicuous light beam, shooting out into the air. Before long, the same light beam returned and dispersed, transforming into a palm-sized piece of illusory goatskin parchment. On it was written the words in ancient Fasak. June 6, 1350, 9 p.m. at the Tussock River's estuary. That's another 4 more months. With this much time, it wouldn't be a problem for me to find the marionettist's main ingredient all over again. The only obstacle is a lack of money, but that's not too difficult. I now have a wealth of £6,945. I should have more than enough after selling another 1 or 2 beyonder characteristics. Besides, there are so many moving bounties at sea. No, I can't be so conceited. I have to eliminate the 4 kings and the 7 admirals. What kind of clue is this? Klein leaned forward, arched his back, and began thinking hard. As he thought about the gathering of the Hermits of Fate, he suddenly thought of someone, Leonard Mitchell. My dear poet had participated in the Hermits of Fate gathering in Bobber Valley. Regardless of his goal, whether it's for official work or private matters, there's a possibility of him obtaining a mystical item that can steal the beyonder powers of others. I can borrow it from him or buy it through him? This is the real clue? Klein felt energized as he quickly came up with a rough plan. First step. Place the radio transceiver above the gray fog to accumulate its aura. Second step, use the radio transceiver to contact Rhodes a few days later. Third step, ask it where I can, with relative ease, obtain mystical items that can steal the beyonder powers of others. If the answer is very clear, the fourth step will follow what the information says, easily completing my goal. If the answer is vague or fraught with danger, the fourth step can be to ask my dear poet's present location. The fifth step is to get Emlyn White to take this badge to find my dear poet to see if he has any corresponding items, and if it's possible to do a transaction. I won't appear in person, for I might end up being recognized. That will similarly make it very troublesome. As for Emlyn, he's presently considered someone from the Church of Earth Mother, no, considered a ghost of the Church of Earth Mother. To get him to initiate first contact, even if he were reported by my dear poet or ends up captured on the spot, he wouldn't be framed or put up for torture. With the plan on what to do and how to proceed, Klein immediately felt refreshed. In his good mood, he decided to head out to eat a Byam delicacy, roasted fish. Above the blue sea, the Golden Dream, which was sparkling thanks to the setting sun's golden rays, was silently cruising forward. Receiving his captain's permission, Danitz apprehensively walked into her room with his head up as people stared at him with envy. Bookshelves filled the room, and on top of them were different books. Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina stood in front of a desk as she held a black fountain pen in her hand. She quickly wrote the following. I do not have similar items. Same for Jodson. He says he will help you look out for it, but that will require you to be sufficiently lucky. Edwina raised her head and turned her clear, aqueous blue eyes to look at Danitz. You hold the ritual to summon Gehrman Sparrow's messenger. At that moment, Danitz was wondering if he would receive any special treatment from his captain, but when he heard that, he pointed at himself in astonishment. Me? Yes. Edwina folded the letter, straightened her body, and nodded. This can help you familiarize yourself with similar rituals. In the future, I'll be testing you on this. All right. Danitz hid his disappointment as he tried his best to recall the procedure, as he slowly set up the ritual that only needed one candle. Finally, under Edwina's watch, he took out a shiny lone gold coin and placed it on the altar. After taking the letter, Danitz ran through the subsequent ritual in his mind twice before he dared to do it. He took a step back and said in ancient Hermes, I summon in my name the spirit that wanders about the unfounded, the friendly creature that can be subordinated, the messenger that belongs to Gehrman Sparrow. Whoosh! The wind howled in the wall of spirituality, sending Danitz's yellow hair flailing upwards. The flame rapidly burgeoned to the size of a human's head. It was as pale as the letter in Danitz's hand. Soon, Danitz saw long blonde hair, bloodshot eyes, and a gorgeous head appear. Hiss! Gehrman Sparrow's messenger is very unique. How can a spirit world creature look like a human, and it's so beautiful at that? She's just slightly inferior to Captain, Danitz suddenly choked because he discovered that the head didn't have a neck underneath. Furthermore, it was held up by a pigtail with a hand. He looked in a daze as one head after another appeared. He saw the headless figure dressed in a complicated dress appear before him. She's indeed a creature from the spirit world. He felt ashamed for having those thoughts. Taking a deep breath, Danitz hurriedly handed over the letter and saw one of the beautiful heads open its mouth to bite at it with pearly white teeth. At this moment, Rionette Tinker's other head bit on the gold coin on the altar. However, she didn't immediately leave. The four bloodshot eyes on other two heads darted towards Edwina Edwards, who was outside the wall of spirituality. She sized her up a few times. Edwina felt herself being observed, and it made it impossible to contain the horror that ensued. Rionette Tinker retracted her gaze as her body turned illusory, fusing into the white candlelight. The flame lit up again as the colors spread outwards. Everything had restored to normal. Just as Danitz removed the wall of spirituality, he heard his captain say in a deep voice, "That's not an ordinary creature from the spirit world." Not an ordinary creature from the spirit world? Danitz was stunned. He knew that his captain's profession was a researcher of spirit world creatures. If she said it wasn't ordinary, it definitely wasn't one. It was far more extraordinary than ordinary. Gehrman Sparrow really is a man with many secrets. Danitz reflected. Backlund, Sherwood Borough. Furs mustered every fiber in her body before she triumphed over the laziness brought from the fireplace. She switched to a thick dark blue cotton dress, wrapped a light gray scarf around her, and wore a warm lady's hat. In the not-too-cold temperatures, aside from the cold that seeped into her bones thanks to the prevailing fog, she took a carriage to William Street. She took in the cold air and told herself that this was a common excursion for an author to gather material outside. There was no need for her to be nervous or appear abnormal. Taking a few steps forward, Furs entered a coffee shop and sat by the window. As she drank the thick, warm liquid, she observed the pedestrians and the houses across the road. There's nothing abnormal. There's no fighting or theft at all. This is a place where the rich live, so the security is much better than East Borough. I can still see someone from Fay-Sac. He's really tall and muscular, like a bear. He also has companions. Haha, are those people from Intis? They really wear exaggerated clothes, it's like they're acting in a play. Backlund is indeed the capital of capitals. I can meet many foreigners here. Furs gradually forgot her goal and opened up a notebook to record down material for her novel. After she finished her coffee, she circled the street and left after finding nothing peculiar. She planned to come again on Thursday. After taking Edwina's reply letter from Minette Tynker's hands, Klein watched as the messenger vanished, confirming that she hadn't asked for an additional gold coin. From the looks of it, using a gold coin as a ritual material works. He smiled, feeling pleased with himself as he opened the letter. With a fruitless answer, he planned on going out to walk the streets to find a chance to engage in true acting so as to conclude the principles. At this moment, he heard knocking at the door. It was Captain Eland. Klein silently opened the door and said, "I was just about to look for you." Eland chuckled and said, "There's no need. As long as you register a place with your identity, I'll be able to know where you're staying. The Governor General's office and the military have quite good control on the inns after all." Klein nodded without a word. Eland turned his body halfway and pointed at the corridor. "I'll bring you to see someone. The White Agate is about to return to Pritz Harbor. If you need help or have any information to provide, you can find him. We're often generous when it comes to payment." This was what Klein had previously mentioned to him before. All right. Klein reached out to the coat rack. After wearing his coat, Eland led him straight to the Amiris Leaf Bar and to a corner inside. In the basement of the Amiris Leaf Bar, Wartung Mither King looked at strongman Oziel opposite him and asked, "Have you gathered the recent intel about Blazing Danitz?" "Yes," Oziel said with a smile. "Last week, Blue Eyes Meese saw Blazing Danitz with an unknown adventurer.